Hey, I'm Duane Kuiper, and I'm back on base. Woo-hoo.
Hey, it's Ryan from the Gym on Base Show, the podcast that brings you closer to your favorite athletes and entertainers. And I want to give a huge shout out to my friends at Claim to Fame. They have some of the best jackets out there that I love to wear. You can rock them for date night, a casual outing with friends, or even while doing a podcast. They're lightweight, they're durable, and perfect for any setting. My favorites are the dark blue, the olive shade, and if you want to switch things up and go for a lighter color, one of my favorite go-tos is the Pacific blue. So check them out at claimtofame.com for all their different styles. So make sure you click the link so the next time you step out, you'll be feeling good with Claim to Fame. For today's very special guest, we have on a friend of the show. He's a forever San Francisco Giant and beloved broadcaster. He also has a special In Conversation event in San Francisco at the Sidney Goldstein Theater on May 15th with his beloved broadcasting partner and former Giants teammate, the great Mike Krukow. And you can purchase tickets for that in the episode bio. So with no further ado, please welcome back to the show, the great Duane Kuiper. Duane, thanks for coming on.
Hey, it's great to be here, and I'm very curious. The more information that I get about this sketch fest will give me a chance either to relax, be nervous, because truly, Mike and I really don't know what we're getting into.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. So do you guys know what questions are coming, or is it just
Oh,
kind of...
no, but you know what? We're better off not knowing what the questions are and what's coming, because then it's more of a it's more real that way, and I think we're better suited for not preparing for these kind of things. So we're looking forward to it, even though we have no clue as to what it's about, what's going on. Uh, we're looking forward to it because it doesn't happen very often where we have to be spontaneous.
Well, I know you guys are used to these type of town hall type events because you've done it for all kinds of different Giants milestones, right? So I think you'll come up with some good stories in the moment.
Yeah, but we know what we're talking about when we talk about the Giants. So I'm assuming that this is going to be very much Giants related
Yeah.
because that's kind of what we're all about. Although we're husbands and dads and grandpas, and I mean there's a lot of different ways that we could go and probably have multiple stories about all of those topics.
Well, do you get a little stage fright still, or are you kind of used to it all these days, people watching you?
No, I mean, as long as we have a little bit of control of what's going on in the environment. I mean, if someone were to say, okay, now we want you to dance, yeah, then I definitely would have some stage fright, or sing, which, if Mike were physically able to do those things, he would have no problem doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
Me, on the other hand, I'm from a dairy farm, so those things didn't come natural at all.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you guys are going to be up on stage, kind of talking about some stories, reminiscing. Did you guys sit next to each other on the bench when you could during games, or?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, look, by the time Mike got to San Francisco in a trade in 1983, I mean, I was pretty much on the bench all the time. And, look, I mean, I had my years as a starter while I was in Cleveland. Got traded to the Giants. Joe Morgan was the second baseman. I mean, I wasn't going to play a whole lot. And then when Joe got traded, I started to play a little bit more, but then I got hurt, back to the bench, and I sat with Mike a lot. And it didn't take very long when he got traded for us to realize that we were going to be best of friends, because I liked his sense of humor. He liked mine. We saw things the same way. He was a pitcher. I was a bench player. He got to play once every 5 days. I got to play maybe once every 5 days. I got to pinch hit a lot, but yeah, we hit it off pretty much right away when he got traded there in 1983.
Well, I pulled up some stats on you guys. Do you remember any at bats or what your stats were on them? Because I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah, I was 1 for 4.
Oh.
I got a base hit off of him in Philadelphia. I think it was on a 3-1 pitch. I faced them a lot in spring training.
Mm.
Indians were in Tucson, Cubs were in Mesa at that point. So, yeah, and look, he remembers it better than I do. And I think he embellishes a little bit that he thought I was a pain in the ass because I took a lot of pitches, bunted, got little doink hits here and there. I don't remember it as well as he does, but I do know that we faced each other a lot in spring training.
Well, it makes me wonder when you guys were always traveling together, broadcasting. Obviously, you were partnered up for the games. Do you ever get irritable with each other?
I can't think of any. I can't remember any time that we got ticked off at each other. I can't. And I mean, look, every road trip we took, I basically sat right next to him across the aisle. If I went out to dinner on the road, it was always with him. So yeah, we spent a lot of hours together. And look, if you, it's kind of like being married. If you know someone really well, you know what ticks them off. I mean, that's in a marriage. You know what's going to tick off your wife. You avoid that, right? I know what would tick off Mike. Obviously, I would avoid that. So, and that's why it's been a great marriage, and the marriage continues.
Yeah, makes sense. And obviously, you had some great memories at Candlestick Park. And I just had Will Clark on the other day. And I also spoke to Steve Young, and they both had some interesting little memories of Candlestick. I guess there was like a long tunnel to walk out to the field from the locker room, and I heard there was leaks in the pipes and light bulbs would go out. Do you have any fun Candlestick memories like that?
Well, I don't think it's really fair to compare my years at Candlestick and Will Clark's years at Candlestick compared to Steve Young's years at Candlestick, because the best weather at Candlestick started in October, and that's football season. So Steve Young can't talk about how cold and windy it was because he got the good weather. Now, as far as the facility, yeah, I mean, look, the facility, there wasn't anything wonderful about Candlestick. The long tunnel. I mean, you could have a miserable game or a miserable at bat, and if you wanted to go up in the clubhouse and sulk, it probably would take you a minute to walk up that ramp. And yeah, I mean, look, there was always these bulbs there, right? And I remember Jim Barr had a bad game, and he took a bat and he knocked every one of those bulbs out, right? So now you walk in the dark all the way back, because the clubhouses weren't right behind the dugout. They were way up down the right field line. For the visiting team, as you well know, they had to walk onto the field to get from their clubhouse to the dugout. So if a visitor, had to go get something out of the clubhouse, he had to wait in between innings to run across the field. It wasn't a lovely place. It wasn't. But, it was our place. And we always felt like if somebody said something bad about it, we had to protect it. Mm. But then after we retired, then, of course, we didn't have to protect it anymore. Then it was free game.
Yeah. About a month ago, I went to Wisconsin to go to Lambeau Field, and I know you're from Wisconsin. So what was your first time or memory of experiencing San Francisco?
Well, look, when I was with the Indians and we came in to play the A's, we stayed at the Hagenberger Hyatt, right there on the corner of Hagenberger and in the Nimitz.
Yeah.
So that was it. I mean, that was my taste of San Francisco. Now, one time when we played the A's, did I ever go into San Francisco? Mm. My first time to San Francisco was when I got traded, and I had to take a physical in January, and they put me up at one of the hotels in downtown San Francisco. That was my first time in San Francisco. And you know what? It wasn't anything exciting. All I knew is that I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be in Cleveland, which I was comfortable with.
Yeah.
So, but look, when I got traded, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So,
Well, when I was in Wisconsin, I had their beer, the Spotted Cow. So it made me wonder what kind of beer, what kind of alcohols are you a wine guy? What do you like?
not a beer guy.
Mm.
My son's a Spotted Cow guy. Was a wine guy for a while. If I go out to dinner, I'll have a martini. Was a bourbon guy for a while, but I stopped that. So I'm not alcohol free, but if I'll go out to dinner, then I'll have a cocktail.
Okay. Are you a cheese curd guy?
I didn't know what cheese curds were until Mike said to me, "Hey, I love those cheese curds." I think cheese curds are for tourists.
Mm.
I mean, we had a block of cheese at our house all the time, but it wasn't like we had cheese curds. Cheese curds are like eating popcorn,
Yeah.
you know.
Dangerous.
And yeah, I mean, look, our farm was right close to the border of Chicago and Illinois, so all those little shops, those cheese shops before you got to the Illinois state line, that's where we saw cheese curds.
Okay.
So,
Well, anyone I have on, I'm a big music fan. So, who was
not.
your? Oh, you're not?
I mean, Mike is like a huge music
Yeah.
fan. I mean, I turn on the radio, I sing the songs, I know the words, probably don't know who the artist is, maybe not even know the name. But the difference between Mike and I is, look, he was raised in California in Pasadena. I was raised on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. When you walk into his house, when he lived in San Luis Obispo, now when he lives in Reno, you walk in the front door, to the left is the living room. In the living room, drums, microphones, guitars, horns, anything that a band would have, he has in his living room. And when his whole family gets together, and he's got a big family, they all grab an instrument and they all play. Nice. Me, I want to run as far away from that as I possibly can.
So you're not a concert guy then? I usually ask people, who's your first concert?
I went to one, and I saw so I'm at the Oakland Coliseum. Mick Jagger.
Nice.
And this is probably 20 years ago. And when people ask me, and they've asked me all the time when I'm at the Coliseum, who's the best athlete you've ever seen in the Coliseum? It was either Ricky Henderson or Mick Jagger.
Well, those are good names right there.
Yeah, well, Mick Jagger he was 75 when he was doing this, or at least he looked like it.
Yeah, I saw him over the summer. He's still doing it, running around.
And he goes for an hour and a half or 2 hours nonstop. Yeah, he was cool.
Well, I got to talk to one of your old teammates probably about 2 months ago. I was at the final event at the Oakland Coliseum for the Reggie Jackson softball event, and the great Dennis Eckersley.
I see Dennis probably once every 2 weeks. We grab coffee at one of the local Starbucks here.
Okay.
And look, I've known Dennis since he was a 17-year-old, just signed with the Indians, and he had to go to he reported to Reno, where it was my first year. The difference is I signed out of college, he signed out of high school. And I could spend an hour talking about Dennis Eckersley. Great teammate, wonderful pitcher. I mean, I had Dennis as a teammate when he was a starter, and then I faced him when he was a starter and a reliever. Great guy. Love the guy.
Well, he had such an aura of just being like a cool, laid-back guy. So I was wondering, who was the cooler teammate then, him or Jack Clark? Who had the cool?
Well, Eck was cool, but he used fear as a way to be a great pitcher. I mean, he will tell you that as cool as he looked, a lot of times he was, not cool, but he couldn't let anybody know that. Jack was kind of cool all the time. Both those guys are in my at least top 10 favorite teammates.
Hmm.
No one looked better in a uniform than Jack Clark. He was quite a specimen, and I'm glad I had a chance to play with him.
Nice. Well, it made me wonder too. We're talking about Mike Krukow, your conversation coming up, some cool teammates you've had. When you were on the road, was there like a certain group of Giants teammates that you remember rolling with, like to go out to dinner or whatnot?
Mike always made it a priority that if things were going poorly, he would throw together some type of a team activity at the hotel. He was super good at it. And I don't know if you remember the movie Animal House.
Yeah.
The main character was Otter, who was in charge of everybody, right? And well, Mike was like Otter. Mm. And that's I called him Otter, and a lot of people still call him Otter. And that was the reason why. He was just a great social. He wasn't sleeping with the principal's wife, trust me. But he was just really social when it came to wanting to get everybody together to see if you could turn things around and make tomorrow a better day for everybody. Yeah, he was as good a teammate as you're ever going to have. And I'm not the only one that says that. Usually all the guys that played with Mike will tell you the same thing.
Well, maybe wonder too, when you got into broadcasting, who kind of took you maybe under their wing? Was it like a Hank Greenwald thing, or?
Well, Hank was the radio guy, and sometimes he did some TV for Channel 2. David Glass was Hank's partner, and although David was only there for 3 or 4 years, he did help me a lot. And Hank was the guy that he would help you, but he would also tell you, you can't say that. No, stop. Don't do that anymore. And he wasn't afraid to do it. The other guy that helped me a lot was Ron Fairley, Ron taught me how to keep score and how to keep tabs on everything on your scorecard. He developed his own scorecard, and I still use it. And he was really valuable when it came to me starting out. So, and Joe Morgan, really my first broadcast partner. Joe technically didn't do anything spectacular like keep score or study or those. He was just Joe, and that really rubbed off on me.
Well, when it comes to like the current Giants, you have Buster Posey back in the realm of things. You got Will Clark, Matt Williams, Bob Melvin. Does that kind of get you even more excited to come to the ballpark now?
Look, I'm sure you know this, Ryan. I love going to the ballpark no matter what. But when Buster was named president, it changed the attitude of everybody. It changed the attitude from the grounds crew to the interns and everybody in between. And kind of that's where we're at right now. And, look, the hiring of Bob Melvin was great. Melvin and Mike were teammates. My broadcasting career started out the same year he was with the Giants. He came to the Giants. So, yeah, all those guys. Matt Williams, I spent a week with Matt Williams in Hawaii just recently. Also on that trip was Wotus and Kirk Reeder. Had a blast. So, yeah, I think good things are going to happen. I think we all have to be a little bit patient. And let's, give Buster and the new people around him, Randy Wynn and Zach Managian, let's give those people a chance to do what they can do.
Yeah, definitely excited for all of that. And I do want to ask, the Giants always pride themselves on having like the living monuments. And you had the Gaylord Perrys, the Willie Mays, the McCoveys being around. What was it like when you played for the Giants? Was that kind of in the works, or was that still a thing?
Well, it was a little bit different because all those guys were healthy enough to put on a uniform and participate in old timers games or come out to spring training and, Marichal, run around, Cepeda. It was always, I still remember Willie Mays working with Chili Davis in center field. And we still have videos of Willie Mays working with Kevin Mitchell in the old ballpark in Scottsdale in left field. And you know what? The thing about that is, when those guys were around, you just kind of took for granted that they were going to be around forever. And then when they got older and you didn't see them in uniform anymore, but they still showed up at the ballpark, I think we took that for granted. And then, the last 4 or 5 years, Mike would always remind me and anybody around that we need to take advantage of these guys while they're still here. And Stretch was always in the booth next to us, as a fan, and Willie was always in the clubhouse sitting in his little room with a card table. Orlando popped around all the time. He'd stick his head in the broadcast booth to say hi. Gaylord would come in for different functions. And now we only have one left, and that's Juan. So last year was a tough year for losing our monuments. Mm-hmm. But we do have our memories and we do have our statues.
Yeah, definitely, and great memories there. And speaking of not taking things for granted, it must be really fun for you to do the Giants Talk podcast with your son Cole Kuiper and Alex Pavlovich, right?
I didn't see that one coming, Brian, with Cole. One of my favorite stories, I used to take Cole to the park with me when Bonds was hitting 700, 714, and he would. I remember the one game I was working a game with John in a radio booth, and Cole was right next to me, sitting right next to me. And then it was me, and then there was an open space, and then there was John. Lee Jones was behind us, and Bonds was getting close to doing something. But anyway, Cole's reading a book. He's, 10 years old. He's reading a novel, right? So he's reading, and Rennell goes, and here's Barry Bonds. So he looks up. Bonds hits a home run. Cole claps. And before Bonds gets to home plate, he's back to reading his book. So I'm thinking, it's my kid, right? So that's fine. And then you fast forward where he becomes really interested. And then he started doing, the show
Sundays, right?
On Sundays, and then he's now sitting with Alex. He does a good job, but I have a little bit of an issue with him. Christmas Day, he and his wife left for Vietnam.
Wow.
Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And they're still there. So anyway, they went there for 2 weeks, and they're having a ball. So good for him.
You'll get your presents when he comes back, right?
I told him, I said, look, my presence is that you get back. So hopefully on Thursday they will land safely, and it'll be good to see them.
Well, I'll start wrapping it up here, but I had to ask you one question. Whenever I have people that have won Super Bowls or World Series, I'm just always curious. You got 3 World Series rings, right? So what do you do with them? Are they on lockdown? Do you display them?
I wore them for a long time, and I think Mike would answer this the same way. For a while, I wore them because I had never had one before. And I was really proud of that team, the 2010 team. And then I realized that you wear them because fans wanted to see them. I remember I got on a plane going to spring training, and I had the ring, and I knew it was safe. We're in the air. So I handed the ring to the row behind me, and I said, just pass it all the way down.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was on the plane for an hour and a half. And eventually I obviously got it back. But that's why we wore them for a long time, because our fans really wanted to see them, take a picture of them, put them on their finger. And look, I was thrilled to get 1 and then to get 3. And you know what? It's never enough. I can't wait to get number 4.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. And last thing here, I think you had the guy at the house fixing the furnace. What other plans do you have today? Anything on the agenda?
Let's see. My daughter and her husband and the 2 grandkids, 5 and 3, 2 grandgirls, Andy and Kit, they're coming back today.
Oh, nice.
So my first priority, no matter what it is how and when am I going to see them? So I'll find out when they get back, and then I'll be here when they get back, because I am in the Grandpa Hall of Fame. I've put myself in there, and I am in there. And then really not a whole lot, figure out what I'm going to have for dinner. If Cole was here, I would probably schedule something with he and Rachel, but it's basically me, a lot of party for one, and I'm happy about that. So
sounds like a good day.
You know what? I'm looking forward to May 15th. I want to really see what this is about. And look, it's not easy for Mike, given his health situation, to get to the stage where we're going to do this. But all the people behind the scenes for this sketch fest, they've made it really easy for him to do this. And consequently, we're going to reward them by having a blast. So you know what? I'm not here to sell tickets, but if you want to see us together in person, here's a chance to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to put the link in the bio, May 15th, and I'll be there. So, Duane, thanks for coming on the show, and looking forward to seeing you May 15th.
And a lot of the stories we'll tell during that night, we're not sure if they're true or not. We've told them so many times. Sometimes their nose grows, and then you know for sure. All right, Ryan, Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too. I'll see you at the ballpark.
You bet.